Well, thank you all for joining us this fine day. I know it's morning, afternoon, midday for some of you, and I'm grateful for our friends. See my friend Giles from down under, right? Thanks for joining. Today's again my first attempt at introducing my practice and what I'm going to be doing for you and for Talaris. And about 6 weeks in, some of you may know my background. I think I've worked with some of you in the past. From many years in telecom and landline and fiber, and in the last 6 or so years in the wireless IoT space, working with Core Wireless and Sierra Wireless. So today I want to really just kind of introduce the strategy and the focus and the vision. We're going to touch on various things of IoT and where to sell, what to sell, and kind of opening up the conversation here. This is known as the fourth industrial revolution. Has anybody heard that phrase yet? I mean, for some it may be overplayed. Some of you may not have heard it. Is anyone, show of hands, heard we're in the fourth industrial revolution? Yes. Okay, a couple. So you may ask, but that's great, Chris. What was the first three? So a lot of us were not around for the first two: steam engines, electricity, and computers. And the interesting thing about computers, people go, "Oh gosh, isn't IoT? That's all computer, edge computing and all that." But the biggest difference is, of course, with the computer era of the revolution there, computers only knew what we told them. They only knew what software we loaded, what we put in through the keyboard. They were smart computers, and computers are great. But now we're going into a phase where we're kind of blurring the lines, physical, digital, and even biological. And it's been dubbed the Internet of Things. I think I shared with one or two of you the term Internet of Things. There's actually a gentleman that's credited with coming up with that phrase back in 1999. Kevin Ashton out of the UK was working for Procter & Gamble, and he had to do a presentation to his executive team on why they should put chips and sensors in devices along their supply chain so they could track them. And he knew that they were not going to understand that concept, but that he knew they understood the internet. So he just tacked on of things, Internet of Things, to try to get their attention, and it worked, obviously. And I'm sure he wishes he put a trademark on that. Just another little quote. We all like quotes. And Jared Newman is a technology journalist that I follow. And in one of his articles, he was talking about IoT, and as the quote says, and just like any company that blissfully ignored the internet at the turn of the century, the ones that dismiss the Internet of Things risk getting left behind. So the fact that you're on this call today, obviously you're not going to get left behind, and I applaud you for being one of the early adopters of being interested in this type of solution. So being the first call here, I felt it was probably prudent to, what's the definition of IoT? And if you Google it, you'll come up with a lot of different answers. But this one I felt was probably the most basic and the shortest and most simplistic, pretty self-defined here on the screen. It's devices and things, collecting data, or events, and then they're used to generate insights, which is the intelligence and the data. And that translates into actions to help improve a business or a process. And I'm going to further break that down for us here in a moment. But before we get into that, obviously there's kind of three parts. And again, you could almost argue there's four parts, but I like the power of three. So we're going to go with three here, three key ingredients of IoT: the device and the power source, connectivity, and the data processing and analytics. And we're going to kind of unpack that here in a moment as well. So just kind of make a mental note that these are the three different parts of a typical IoT solution, and they can be very complex or maybe not so complex. So over the years, I've been asked a lot, what is IoT, and how would I know when I see it? And the funny thing is, so many of us have them in our homes today. I mean, we've been living with Internet of Things technology in our own personal lives for years. For most of us, even if you've ever used Uber wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the power of the whole concept of Internet of Things. So these are just some really basic ones that we think about how much value they bring to our lives. And even the Ring doorbell, how convenient it is to see who's at the door and communicate with them without having to actually go open the door, even if you're not home. And the digital assistants, and of course, I wear my Apple Watch, and it's great to track my heart rate and all my steps. And these are all just examples of some very simple IoT solutions that are here today. And the beautiful part is what we're going to be talking about and the solutions we're going to be offering to your clients, and it is so much more exciting than even these. So actually, this slide I kind of grabbed out on the deck, but we actually are going to be doing academies, at least 4 this year, and we'll grow it and bring it international, I'm sure, going into later this year, next year. But why should we pay attention? Large revenue opportunity. It's kind of a greenfield opportunity in the sense that there's not as many partners in this space right now. A lot of partners kind of whistle by these opportunities because they're complicated, or they don't understand them, and I get it. I mean, no one likes to go be involved in a sales conversation when you don't know all the details, and that's where we fit in to help you with that. Adding a new revenue stream. I mean, again, being it's not as a crowded field, a lot of our partners, a lot of you have been very successful selling connectivity and dial tone and UCaaS. This is another layer of solutions you can offer your customers, and it's an additional revenue stream. Adding more value to your clients. So important as you being the trusted advisor. Every day I'm sure that's your thinking is like, what can I do to keep my client base happy with me and satisfied. By presenting the right IoT solutions, or more likely, better said, is identifying where IoT solutions can be a part of your client's business. It's going to pay back tenfold. We're going to talk about that in a minute. In fact, I think in a few slides I have the 4 pillars we're going to go over. And then an introduction to IoT wouldn't be complete without just kind of hitting high level the numbers. Again, this is another data set that, depending on which article you read or where you get it, it's going to vary slightly. The bottom line is no one's disputing that it's just all the graphs go up and to the right. It's growing. I think as a human species, we've always liked to be connected. We like feeling safe. Everyone likes things to be a little easier, and all these solutions we're going to talk about do all of that. So there's really no one, even though there are some naysayers of privacy or is it safe and all that. There's a lot more evidence and discussion saying this is the future. It's not going away. In fact, Ian, just looking around at our homes, how many devices have an IP address just in your personal home, and it's the same in businesses. It's just growing. So not only the solutions are growing and the needs are growing, the devices are growing. All of those devices need connectivity. So we're seeing a steady trend of growth and revenue for devices that require even cellular connectivity. And we'll touch a little bit on 5G. I'm not going to go into 5G in great depth today, being we have a short time. That could be a whole nother conversation. But again, just another indication here of the growth and the fact that you're on this call, and I appreciate it. You're going to be part of it, so that's exciting. This is just another snapshot of the different verticals, and where Qualcomm this past year estimated the revenue potential. And the one that I've seen starting to come up more and more, at least here in the States, the connected smart cities or connected communities. Retail is a hot one. The agricultural businesses, I think that might be understated a little bit. I've seen some numbers are even bigger than that. But just to kind of give you an idea of the different verticals and where the opportunity may lay, I would encourage you to take a minute and you could just look and say, which of these areas do you have business today? But that's really the best practice, I think, is to look at your existing book of business in any of these verticals, and let's start there. And then if you're not working in any of these and you're just kind of an expert generalist, then we can even have other discussions of where you can start and go look for some fresh opportunities. So I actually borrowed this slide from one of our supplier partners, Rackspace, and I love the top question on the top of the screen. This could be a question you can use with all your prospects. What problems could you solve if you knew the state of everything? I mean, what business operations leader, would love to know the state of everything? So that's kind of, to me, that's kind of the core of why an IoT solution is beneficial to any business. is monitoring and knowing the status of so many different type of applications. And you can see here just again some more verticals from transportation, consumer and commercial, and it goes on. And we're going to look a little more into use cases in a moment. But I felt like we can't have too many use cases, right? Because I know that's generally where a lot of my partners are like, where do I begin? Who is using these kind of services? So you'll see a lot of use cases throughout this conversation. Check out this quick video for further explanation.
The Internet of Things is connecting devices at an amazing rate. According to GSMA Intelligence, 25 billion devices will be connected by 2025, creating a global revenue opportunity of $1.1 trillion. The scale and the breadth of the Internet of Things requires flexible and secure networks that deliver comprehensive coverage. Different connection types will meet various technical and business model needs, delivering service excellence and value for money. Smart meters and alarm systems need to provide simple usage data. However, these devices are often placed in buildings or underground, so coverage is key. NB-IoT offers cost-effective wide area connection for this type of application, with ultra-low power consumption giving a device up to 10 years battery life. Freight companies will benefit from knowing exactly where cargo is located, allowing them to measure distribution efficiency and provide a better quality of service. The value of the Internet of Things depends on the availability of secure solutions that inspire the confidence of businesses and consumers. Mobile operators deliver secure IoT solutions which authenticate endpoints, provide constant communication, and offer unparalleled system integrity. These IoT solutions use licensed spectrum, enabling mobile operators to better manage the customer experience. Mobile operators and their ecosystem partners are experienced, trusted providers of IoT solutions, with scalable networks and platforms providing the full range of IoT services for all businesses.
So as I mentioned earlier, I'm sorry, my formatting is even off here a little bit. So I broke down IoT, why IoT, and I'm going to break this down a little bit further, but complexity of the cell, bottom line, requires a broader business discussion. You improve the E&E, and we'll talk about what E&E is here in an upcoming slide. It provides a better outcome, provides business and intel outcome, as well as a positive ROI every time. So let's unpack those a little bit, requiring the broader discussion. And the good news is you're doing it already in a lot of ways. I'm just suggesting that you're going to need to add a few more questions. And a lot of the questions are going to be about, what happens when the internet's down, or how is the remote employee situation working with communications? And, could you use a UCaaS kind of solution? It's really more about, what processes would you like to improve upon? Where do you see waste? Is there any operational tasks that you would like to automate that are manual today? So sometimes trying to help identify an IoT solution at first, especially if the customer's not even aware of them. And that's, I think, one of the challenges is when you take refrigeration monitoring, for example, it's used a lot because it's just an easy one to explain. When you look at a hospital or a hotel that has a restaurant in it, or the hospitals where they store the vaccines and the medicines, or even the food for the cafeteria, there's regulations that have to monitor and show they're tracking the temperature in all these refrigerations and freezers. Well, the most common way has been done in the past. You send an employee in there, they look at the thermometer, they pull the clipboard off the wall, they write down the temperature, every couple of hours, and then when the health department comes and inspects, they see this log. Well, the problem with that, is that a problem? If it's working, maybe it's not. But if there's a better way to do it, obviously, where you could automate that and put a sensor in there that will, by the minute and second, track the temperature, and had a dashboard, on a cloud-based dashboard that shows them all the temperature readings, that is much more efficient. So, that is one that's really selling very easily and widely across, so many different consumer verticals, from, as I mentioned, hospitality, hospitals, et cetera. And now with all the vaccines need to be stored at certain temperatures, it's even a bigger need. So helping a company identify problems that they don't may not perceive as a problem, just because that's how they've done it. It kind of reminds me of the story of when Henry Ford had the first car roll out. No one thought that horse and buggies were a problem because that's how they've always done it, kind of thing, right? So helping your clients kind of evolve their way of thinking, how can they run their business more efficiently and effectively using technology, is really at the core of all these conversations you'll have with your customers. So let's see here. Improving E&E, actually, the E&E that I just mentioned is efficiency and effectiveness. And I think that's where, what business does not want to be more efficient and more effective? Because by doing those, you remove the manual process and the human error, you improve on the outcome and maintenance processes. And the outcome is not only, the customer satisfaction can be improved, but even employee morale. Employees like to work in an environment that is efficient and effective, and frankly, maybe makes their life easier. You're going to decrease, waste and costs. There's a lot of these sensors that measure and monitor, water usage and electricity usage. And of course, by effectively doing that, that's going to help you decrease your waste costs and increase output safety, and of course, add quality control and asset tracking. So that's one of the pillars right there, is improving the efficiency and effectiveness. The third pillar going in, providing that business intel. So solving the problem and automating a manual process, that's only a part of the benefit. And this, to me, in certain verticals and certain scenarios, might be more valuable than automating a manual process, is all the data you collect. So no longer does a business need to guess or forecast a number for planning for the next year. How many employees do they need to hire? What do they need to budget for electricity or some type of resource? They'll have actual concrete data and a track record showing the seasonality of certain needs, and it's just very helpful. There's a lot of different reports and case studies how just the intel provided by certain sensors, that in itself pays for the whole solution. Which kind of brings us into our last column, our last pillar. It's a positive ROI every time. So, automating those processes and coupled with all the intel and the business intelligence that you're gathering, pretty much in most cases, it pays for itself. If it doesn't pay for itself on month one, it definitely pays for itself over a short period of time. And it's a very wide range, honestly, depending on what the cost is and the scope and how many endpoints, et cetera. But on average, you'll see that the solution will pay for itself just with the benefits of the automating and intelligence. There's a lot of jargon in this business, so check out this quick video. Pokes a little fun at it.
I was in this industry even before it was called IoT. Back in the M2M days.
We do smart buildings, we do smart schools, we do smart facilities.
We've been in the IoT space
since 1954.
We call it the Internet of Everything.
We do smart kids, we do smart parents.
The Internet of Us.
We only work with open source.
Could be Sigfox, could be LoRa, could be Weightless P.
We technically can't work with, we can work with Sigfox.
Yes, we're production ready.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do anything.
We do smart bins, we do smart trash cans, we do smart...
Well, we're not just a platform, we're an entire ecosystem.
Is the platform end to end?
We're all the way on the edge.
Edge computing.
We play in the fog.
AWS is down. AWS is down.
We have over 50 or 100, 200 integrated devices.
By 2025, there will be over 20 billion, 40 billion.
600 trillion connected devices.
Infrastructure, we do smart...
Now the gateway can be like a little gateway, it could be a big gateway.
我们从1954年起就已经进入
You may not even need a gateway, because it could be like on a cell tower.
We use LoRaWAN 1.
But all I'm hearing is LoRaWAN, LoRaWAN, LoRaWAN.
LoRa B1 Kenobi.
Oh, your devices are LoRaLAN.
LoRa by far is the best.
No. That's LoRaLAN.
Not LoRaWAN, so that's not gonna work.
Do you have a TMP36?
IP66?
Do you have a TMP102?
Oh, your device is IP100.
This is on 868.
So what I'm gonna totally suggest right now,
we should do
我们的产品
a POC.
You know, a POC.
that's the way to go. Let's do a POC.
We do smart farms, we do smart animals.
I need someone to fix dev for me. It's broken.
We're disrupting the disruptive.
I really need it
It's the Uber of IoT.
right now.
I've never seen a battery this shape before.
We're hardware agnostic. We partner with anyone.
even our competitors.
We're connectivity agnostic.
On our cloud?
We're cloud agnostic.
Yeah, we're cloud agnostic.
On our cloud.
Maybe we're more like cloud atheist.
Are you on-prem or in the cloud?
Yeah, I mean, I already have it working on my Arduino, so we should be good to go.
Insects. We do smart filming.
What do your APIs look
We're
like?
back in the NB-IoT.
So
pony.
first, you start with the end
Does
node.
this network server support
Smart
downlink?
chairs.
The fog.
What do you mean we're having a
We
production?
got
cables.
lots of
That's
cases.
why you
All
should
right
show
now.
it.
devices on
And on that note of jargon, I actually put together a glossary of terms. So if you're new to this industry, just like with any technology industry, it is filled with acronyms. So we'll have a digital copy out in the near future. It's actually going to be a part of the academies that we're also going to be doing. So I'll do a quick infomercial on the academies, as I already kind of mentioned, but we're going to be providing a 2.5-day breakout sessions included with different suppliers and materials such as the glossary and a handbook. And it's going to be a certification program actually on how to sell different IoT solutions. So that's up and coming, and really excited about that as we're putting that together. As I mentioned already, IoT use cases. This is so a way of thinking about where should you spend your time and energy. From the security, tracking indoor and outdoor. Indoor tracking is becoming really hot in the healthcare industry. If you think about all the high dollar assets they have, like a portable EKG machine is thousands of dollars. And believe it or not, there's a market on the black market where they're in the middle of the night, they disappear and they're just gone. So being able to track those and know where they are and when they leave the building and alert security is a big deal. Metering, is a big part of the smart city concept. Instead of having someone go door to door, reading the meter, the gas meter, the water meter, and many cities are going to remote monitoring, and someone needs to help them through that transition. Compliance, we talked about that with the refrigerators and the freezers. Occupancy and space utilization, that's kind of thanks to the pandemic, is kind of popped up on the screen. Wasn't there so much in the past few years, but knowing how many people are in a room. It used to be just for like conference rooms. They wanted to know if the conference room was occupied or not. But now, it's for the foreseeable future. Restaurants and businesses need to know how many people are in there so they can manage that. Air quality is another area. I mean, ventilation monitoring is becoming very popular and big, especially in anywhere where there's a large group of people, working together, either in an office or a shopping area. It's basically, CO2 monitoring. So where there's a lot of high degree of CO2, there's not a lot of ventilation. There's not a lot of ventilation, then you're more likely to have, contaminated type air. You could get someone sick. So I see more and more of those kind of conversations popping up, as well as the obvious ones with asset monitoring with the tanks and bins and the motors. And we're going to talk about that in a moment. So unpacking these a little bit, I already hit a little bit of this. The healthcare is up and coming, a lot of opportunity there. Anyone on this call have healthcare opportunities you're working on, or have done anything with the healthcare? Show of hands if you're on video. No? Guys, yeah, I'm not surprised. I know you're. Transportation, this is one that has made leaps and bounds over the last year or so with artificial intelligence, with cameras that are facing the driver. You can tell if they're drowsy, if they're falling asleep, if they're on the phone, or if it's not even the assigned driver. I mean, it can do facial recognition and know maybe the truck's being stolen even. So going back to a good example of how a solution can pay for itself, if you have a 18-wheeler rig full of cargo that's worth $250,000 and it's being stolen, to have a solution in the cab of the truck that would track it and alert someone if someone's hijacked the vehicle, that's $10 to $15 a month or whatnot. Clearly a positive ROI there. Another one I really like about the transportation one is the cargo and asset tracking. So there's even sensors that can tell if the doors in the back have been open, light sensor, humidity sensing. There's so many things that protect the cargo, but there's a concern in the logistics business of shipping, especially I was talking to a guy that manages a fleet of trucks that deliver cannabis and marijuana out in California, and and they'll send out 10 pallets of product, but when they get to the next place, there's only 9 pallets, and no one knows what happened, or maybe even we're too concerned about it. But being able to know if that vehicle stopped too long, the doors were open, light was sensed, whatever, it will alert the dispatcher and management leadership, and they can address that as need be. And same with public transportation, would be public Wi-Fi. That's probably one of the more popular ones. There's so many other things around that can be useful. Panic buttons. This is a new one. A lot of states are requiring, there's actually passing laws and legislation around panic buttons for isolated workers. Housekeeping, janitor services where they have a medical emergency, or maybe someone's harassing them, or unruly guests or whatnot. These, they could be a pendant around their neck, or a watch looking, wristband. That is surprisingly something that I just never really thought would have been a big seller, but it's pretty hot right now. So as automation in rooms, I mean, you're seeing it more and more with a lot of the hotels where your smartphone will let you in using a kind of NFC or RFID type technology with the mobile app, and more and more your 4 or 5 star hotels are all going to a mobile app. It's just a much kind of that touchless approach to checking into the hotel and getting your room key, etc. Industrials, again, we're kind of covering a wide range, right? From consumer, retail, hospitality, healthcare, now industrial. That's what's really exciting about this. There's a lot of opportunities, and I would encourage you. You don't have to be an expert in all of these. Pick the one that is most close to your expertise and to your client base. We start with what you know, and then you can expand later. But that's probably one of the bigger challenges. We're going to talk about some mistakes not to make in a moment, but I'm getting ahead of myself as I usually do. One thing about industrial, preventive maintenance is actually one of the top areas that IoT is being used, because again, you think about manufacturing, the assembly line, the supply chain. When a piece of equipment breaks, I think that tanker and the Suez Canal is a good example. I mean, supply chains get disrupted. It costs a lot of money to a lot of people and creates a very bad customer experience. So having any kind of sensor that can predict, using predictive analytics, using vibration sensors or temperature, if a device is overheating, it again pays for itself over and over and over again. Oil and gas is a hot one out. I know in Texas and Arizona, some in Mexico, some other places, from tank monitoring, pipeline monitoring, where you have remote sites where you don't have to send someone out there to kind of keep an eye on the pressure of this gauge or whatnot. These are all really simple sensors that will do it, and through the internet, put it in the cloud, and it shows up on a dashboard where someone can monitor and make decisions as needed.
Chris, I have a question about, perfect timing, panic buttons. Is now a good time to stop you?
Sure, please.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So it says, I have a healthcare use case where the customer wants to place a panic button in therapy rooms that will trigger a security camera to begin recording and broadcast a share link of the live video feed to other staff so they can see or hear what's happening in the therapy room and take appropriate action. Can this be done, and with which IoT partner?
Yeah, we have a couple of partners that should be able to do that. And that's great about software and hardware. You can pretty much custom configure so many of these things to do, if this event happens, then do this. So that is definitely in the inside the range of possibilities. And we do have a couple of different partners that can do that, supplier partners. And I'm actually going to show you in a moment, have a slide on how you can look at our portfolio of partners that can do a lot of these things. And I'm actually updating this. So I'm going to show you in a moment a living matrix, if you will, that we're updating weekly as I go. And I'm actually interviewing all of our supplier partners, because the technology is changing and evolving so quickly. Even the information we captured last year, a lot of it's out of date. So short answer is yes. We could definitely, have a further conversation around that. There's a couple of options actually. You see anything else? So the up and coming, I just want to draw attention to the lower half of the screen. I should say residential MDUs. So multi-dwelling units, apartment complexes, condos, anywhere where they're building new, apartments and condos. The new amenity, it used to be, you have a tennis court or you have a steam room or a swimming pool. The new amenity they're attracting new tenants to newer multi-dwelling units is smart units. No different than what's one at their home, right? The Ring camera, to be able to turn your lights on and off through your smartphone, having security panic buttons, even in the parking lot of some of these places where, someone could just hit a button and it will, notify security or the police department. You're seeing those more and more, but they could be tied into a greater network of security. So that's something that's hot. In addition to not only those, but the water and moisture sensing. If you think about a 3-story building and the water heater on the 3rd floor is leaking, and no one notices it for 3 months because it's leaking in the back between the walls, it creates a big problem. You have to replace a lot of insulation and sheetrock. It's a very expensive problem to have for property owners, property management companies. So having a very inexpensive water sensor at the base or in the tray of these water heaters and washing machines, it's saving them just tons of money, and even helps them with their insurance rates. So we kind of talked about different use cases, things to look for, why IoT matters. And of course, you really don't have IoT if you don't have something, connecting them to the cloud. So just a quick slide and reminder of, we do have a mobility team. We have specialty practices around AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile here in the States. So it's literally mobility at Teleris.com. If you have a question around quoting any of those 3, we have specialists that are really tied in with each of those carriers' operations. So we're doing a tremendous amount of business there. And then we also have these aggregators, several partners that will bundle in multiple carriers, include equipment in a lot of cases. A lot of them really got their start of just doing 4G backup and alternate connections for LAN environments. But so many of the solutions we've been talking about in IoT require the same type of connectivity, especially anything that's mobile will be, having a SIM card in it most likely, or maybe some type of GPS with satellite. And several of these partners, supplier partners here will be able to bundle those in for us. So how do you determine who the right supplier is? If you don't have it yet, really, work with your partner support manager and your field sales team at Teleris to get access to our back office. So we actually have a back office, and one of the little menus in the middle of the screen is a quoting tools. You click on the matrices here, right here in the matrices section. You click on that, and it will pop up this menu of all the different kind of advanced services. You would then click on IoT and mobility, and then you'll get this screen. And the cool thing about this is it's a very interactive tool. You'll click on, across the top, it has all the different IoT solutions from panic buttons to, humidity and moisture sensing, voltage meter. So you click on what you're looking for. And as you click on this top bar, it will eliminate any supplier that doesn't offer that. Okay. So that kind of gives you your ability to, if you already have an existing relationship with Claro, for example, you go, okay, well, I didn't know they did that. That's great. I know that channel manager. If you don't know that channel manager, then of course, that's where we can make that introduction for you as well. And the same thing for mobility. We kind of broken into 2 categories, pure IoT sensors and solutions, as well as mobility, the mobility options over here. So I know it's kind of an eye chart, but I almost did that on purpose. I really want to encourage you to get into the back office and just play with this and explore with it a little bit. It's a great tool because when you have 25 plus suppliers, it can do a lot of the same things. Kind of nice to know which ones we've kind of vetted out for you. Okay, right on time. So 3 mistakes to avoid. These are just some 3 mistakes that I've observed, or I've had other IT and IoT consultants share with me. So it comes from a very wide range of experiences across many different professionals, and every shiny object is worth chasing. That's a mistake. That's not always the case. Skipping a pilot, we're going to talk about that, and trust but verify. So unpacking those a little bit. obviously I'm a big fan of IoT, Internet of Things. Solving problems with technology is very fun and exciting, and it's just getting bigger and bigger. But just be aware, though, and how do you avoid this mistake? I think it's just by working with me and working with your colleagues and working with the supplier channel managers. We can kind of help you with this. If this is new to you and this is the first time you really had these conversations, or you're going to have these conversations, attending our webinars or our academies, every little bit of resources you can get from us is going to help you with that. But one of my good friends, Jack Nocky, put it, he said, just don't chase every opportunity down a rabbit trail, because some of them are dead ends. And if there's no real need there, if there's no pain there, it's like anything in sales. If there's not a need there, there's no budget there, then maybe it's not worth chasing. Skipping a pilot. I find sometimes customers are really eager to get the solution in place because they got a big problem, and of course, we as sales, sometimes we want to get the deal done and get it deployed. And I'm telling you, at least 50% of the time, I've had situations where they're like, "Hey, we should skip this and let's go ahead and start deploying it." And that's a big mistake. Don't do it, because if you get it all out there and you realize you got the wrong sensor, or the wrong device, or the wrong solution, it's just very painful. So, take advantage of these suppliers that offer a proof of concept or a pilot, test it out. And it's, you'll find too, while you're trying to solve for A, problem B will come up that we didn't even know about. And if you don't do a pilot or proof of concept, it's kind of too late to discover problem B after you've already deployed everything and everything's been configured. So just be aware of that. I mean, that's, again, the larger the opportunity, the more important that pilot or proof of concept is. I feel like a lot of you probably know that already, but it's just worth pointing out. Trust but verify. This is another area that I'm finding as we're working through our auditing and interviewing of a lot of our supplier partners. They'll say, "Oh yeah, we do X." Okay, well, tell me about that. Explain that to me further. And then we find out, well, you kind of don't do X. You're kind of tiptoeing around it. So this is something that I've learned over the years and seen other partners and other suppliers kind of share with me. Have that pre-call. Don't have your supplier, channel manager, even though you may know them well, or maybe you don't know them at all, on that first call. Obviously, this is a best practice. Again, a lot of you know this. Have a pre-call. Make sure you understand what level of support they provide. They bring in a third party for anything. I've had conversations with some of you about this as well. It can be confusing to the customer and to use the partner. I mean, a lot of those aggregators do use other companies as a part of their solution, and some of them do a really great job of keeping that third party in the shadows. You don't even know they're there. Then others bring them up into the spotlight, and you're like, okay, who's in charge here? Who's selling it? So having those conversations and making sure you're on the same page with suppliers, it makes the process for your customer so much better. Okay, so as we wrap up here, we're on the home stretch. Kind of did an introduction to myself and the whole idea of selling IoT and the opportunity that's out there. This is kind of a good exercise that a lot of partners do. This is kind of a best practice. Again, I think, most of you go, okay, yeah, Chris, I agree, that's good. Look at your existing base. That's the best place to start. Anyone that's in enterprise space, large account sites, a lot of insights, anything with transportation, any of those verticals we mentioned, start there and have those conversations and find out where else can you help add value? What other problems do they have in their operations that you can create a solution for them? And that's where myself and my team and the suppliers, we'd love to help you with that. But I was just starting there. Any other questions that I can help you with? Any resources you need, or is there any area that I didn't touch on that you were hoping that I would?
I'll throw one at you if you don't mind, Chris.
Yeah, Ryan.
So actually just yesterday, I had to order some POTS lines for a client for things like water towers, water pump stations, water lift stations scattered all over the place. And it's a pain in the butt and they're for alarms to monitor that stuff because a lot of it is just like a little shack somewhere. So it's a huge struggle. So would that be a use case for IoT to try and replace the old analog stuff with that?
Absolutely. In fact, it's not, well, yes and no. So IoT would mean that there's a sensor there that's collecting that data or doing an action and putting it back in the cloud. That's, option A. That would be more IoT. But option B, there's a couple of products out there, and we have a couple of suppliers to provide what we call POTS replacement service. So there's an adapter, if you will, that takes it from cellular and converts it to analog POTS line, and is compatible with a lot of those older systems that require a POTS line, a plain old telephone line. So that might be a better solution for you, is that a POTS replacement solution that is is backhauled over cellular, but it's the output at the location would be POTS. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Who would be the suppliers I would reach out to on that?
Yeah, I think it was Source Inc. and Mettel. And there was one other one that I'm drawing a blank on, but I'll look it up for you. But I know Mettel really has, they do a lot of that, and that's really a hot one for them.
And that makes it portable too then, right? So if they need to move it somewhere, they can just grab it.
Yeah. Technically, it's great for alarm panels and breezeways and elevator lines, and just as you described.
Cool. Thanks for the information and good job on the call. Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, it was a great question.
Hey, Chris, I got a question for you as well. Hey, I'm interested in one of the very established markets, which is like water meter tracking. Because like in, say, agriculture, keeping track of their water is really, really important. But it's also seems to me like it's a very established market already, and there's a number of providers actually in there. Is that a market that we can actually really break into, or is that just like so established that the existing providers have sort of got that one under control with all the users?
Great question. So if I heard you right, is water monitoring for agriculture, or really there's so many other wastewater monitoring for cities. But absolutely, that is something, it's not oversaturated in a sense. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of the, even the AT&T's, they have a lot of direct sales, going after these larger opportunities. The tier 2 and tier 3 markets are the ones that are most underserved, as it is with so many of the telecom solutions we sell. That's where your bigger opportunities are going to lie, and the smaller towns are the non-corporate farms, if you will, the more regional ones that are more locally owned and managed. I think that's a fantastic, whether it be any kind of tank monitoring, because you think about a farm, it's not only water, but then you have fuel for all the tractors. Monitoring the tanks. A lot of them have tanks on site to fuel their tractors, and depending on how busy they are that month or that week, the fuel tanks may or may not need refueling, or maybe one of the employees on the farm is filling up his truck when no one's looking, and a tank that should have lasted a week only lasts 4 days now. So having tank monitoring sensors, both for any kind of fluid or gas for that matter. Again, it goes back to efficiency and effectiveness, letting those businesses know where they have what you call loss or shrinkage of product or resources. Because again, that's just a fact of a reality of a lot of these businesses. The employees just kind of help themselves sometimes when no one's looking, and that costs a lot of money over the course of a year. But I would encourage you to, wherever you see an opportunity there, if you have a segue into a conversation with a farm operation or agriculture operation, absolutely, there's nothing stopping us there. I mean, in fact, a lot of our suppliers, are realizing the value and the power of you, because you're that unbiased, trusted advisor. I mean, you have no allegiance to any one logo other than your customer's logo. So there's a lot of value in you being that consultant and bringing in multiple options with multiple different solution providers.
Thanks very much. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. That's a great question. Anything else? So as I mentioned, I'm going to continue to work. My role, I feel like I have three main objectives for my role is number one, working with you, enabling, educating, and providing resources to help crack into this and become a leader in this space of selling IoT and mobility. That's number one. Number two is working with my internal colleagues and coworkers. We have a great team here at Telarus, and as I mentioned, if I haven't said it already, I'll say it again. I am thrilled to be here. I've been a partner supplier for 10 years. So I've been on the supplier side for 10 years supporting Telarus partners. So now to be on this side, it's almost like a dream come true for me. I'm very excited to be here because I know I've always had just utmost respect, and to see what we're doing now, we're going to take it up multiple levels. I'm just so excited about what we're challenging ourselves and our colleagues to just do better. Not that we're even doing that bad, right? But we could always do better. So I'm very excited about that. So working with my colleagues to educate them on how to better support, and because there's only one of me, right? I can't be on every call, so I need to multiply myself across my peers, and everyone's very receptive to that. We all agree that's important. And then thirdly is working with our suppliers. My job is to be your advocate and work with them to help them provide us better options and better processes, because that's what it always comes down to, is processes. So not only do we want our customers to have efficiency and effectiveness, but I'm challenging our supplier partners to also be efficient and effective when working with you. So those are the three areas that I'm focusing on. And so we're 6 weeks in, and I'm happy to say I feel like every week it's just getting better and better. So stay tuned, stay in touch, and we'll continue to grow this together. So Sarah, if we have no other questions, I guess we could wrap it up.
Perfect. Oh, I do have one question, and you may have seen this. What's the hottest area of IoT?
What is the hottest area of IoT? Well, there's three that, again, I've been surveying my suppliers, going, hey, what are you selling? What's hot? What can you just not quote fast enough? And it was panic buttons, preventive maintenance, and my goodness, what was the third one? All things healthcare. There's so many things in healthcare because healthcare is so hot right now. Everybody's living longer, whether it be asset tracking or glucose monitoring or remote patient care, where there's actually a webcam attached to an iPad. That's how the doctor communicates with the patient that just had maybe open heart surgery and is recovering at home. And there's there's dozens and dozens of healthcare solutions. Then preventive maintenance, like I mentioned, that's a big one. I mean, the bigger the operation, when something breaks, it costs them a lot of money, especially the bigger the device, where they got to roll in a whole new transformer or something. So panic buttons, preventive maintenance, and anything healthcare is really hot right now. As I mentioned, check your state. There are literally, I think it's like 18 states now that have laws requiring housekeepers and janitors and isolated workers to have a panic button on their person in case they're either harassed or getting in a tight spot or have a medical emergency. So if you're in one of those states or one of those areas, that's a good thing to go cold calling on, because there's a need. If they don't have it yet, they get fined.
Chris, I might have blacked out on that part then. So what is the panic button use case then? Like, can you redo that a little bit?
Yeah. So there are two, very common ones, and the hospitality industry is the largest for, asking for this, because every now and then you hear in the news of a housekeeper being harassed by a guest. Someone's had overserved or harassing a housekeeper. So they're up there by themselves. There's no one to call for help for. So having a panic button on a pendant, a bracelet, they press the button, it notifies hotel security, or maybe it notifies and text their immediate manager or the front desk. It notifies someone of where they are. And every floor in each zone of the floor has a reader. So it would tell them where they are in the building, and they know where to go to help them. Maybe they've fallen and hurt themselves, or someone's harassing them. So it's a very simplistic, use case, but there's a real need there, and it's not cost prohibitive. I mean, it pays back, especially for it's cheaper. Putting it in place is cheaper than the fine they'll get by not having it in most states and most areas.
So you're saying there's some states that have mandates or requirements for this? Okay.
Yep.
Chris, Mohammed here. I have sold panic buttons before with my devices, and I think that company has been purchased by another one. So who else is selling panic buttons?
And Claro Enterprise has it, Source Inc. But you're right that my devices, I had not heard. It just happened recently. I just spoke with them recently, like last week. I didn't know about my devices being purchased unless they're still being branded. My devices just have a different managing company. But my devices, I do believe, have the best and easiest solutions to sell. We're 450 sensors, all on one portal, one platform. There are a couple of others, and it's all on my IoT matrix. But I can get that information back to you.
Yeah. So what happened that recently, I would say some months ago, they said that my devices is getting all the accounts acquired by another company. So they were paying the lump sum commission on the sale that we have done. So that's why maybe. So they are still there, maybe in your portfolio, but I was thinking maybe they're gone. So that's good to know.
Yeah, no, I can explain that. No, so yeah, my devices is the supplier. So we have partners in our portfolio that white label my devices. So they are paying residual commissions, and they're paying my devices for the services. I'll double check that. I mean, I just spoke with my devices no more than a week and a half ago. That would have been a pretty big thing that I would like to have known, but I'll double check that. But I know for a fact there's still, we're bringing our brand new supplier called Modus Systems out of Texas, and they resell several different options, as well as Fortify in our portfolio. Fortify, FOR25, Fortify, they're one of our exclusive providers. They have my devices as well as Samsara, which is a fleet tracking, as temperature tracking, and they have a lot of different sensors. Fortify probably has a dozen different IoT suppliers that they resell on their bill. So they pay residual commissions. It's still one bill, but they're the kind of the aggregator of the services on behalf of your customer. So that's generally how. Yeah, there you go. That's generally the model. And two, because this is still evolving. I mean, everything we've been talking about has only been really hot and heavy for the last 5-10 years compared to everything else we've been talking about. It's been decades, if not 100 years. I predict and foresee the consolidation of the solutions and the companies will continue to grow, and it'll get much easier. But right now, going through a reseller, an aggregator, is pretty much the status quo. Anything else? Coming up on the hour, so I really appreciate everyone's time. I'm excited. Yeah, we're developing a lot of content, and we're even developing a learning management system, known as LMS, right? So we're going to have different layers of online learning for our partners that you can take and get certified on. So that's probably going to be more like Q3, Q4. Takes time to put those together, record the material, and build the graphics and all. But we're literally in the process of building those out now. So more to come. Constantly looking for more ways to add value and just make this an easier process for you. If there are no other questions, ladies and gentlemen, we can give you back a little time. Anything else I can do for you guys today?
That's
excellent.
Perfect. Thank you. We look forward to you bringing on some suppliers next time, perhaps.
You bet. Yeah, our next call, I'll bring in a couple of those suppliers that are talking about those top three. I was going to do it today, but I felt like our first one, it would just be good for us, just us talking, and let me kind of go through the slides and whatnot. And the next time we'll have a supplier. That's a great idea, Sarah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great day, everyone. Great evening, afternoon.